Well, hello there. Welcome to Life After 3D, episode 12. Not too many updates this week. That's the reason why I didn't do one on Tuesday. Uh, Let me work through what has occurred, the wrong word, but crossed my mind and things I've realised. Right, there was plenty of ideas that I've had for extra sources of income, right? Well, sources of income, because I don't have any income right now. And on paper, you'll see this a lot if you do a search on YouTube, right? You'll come across all these amazing things like, oh, make these things and you'll make £500 or 50 grand a day. Right, what they're not telling you is there's always a serious flaw. And usually by the time there's a video on YouTube, the market is already saturated, right? So if it is easy, simple, doesn't take you very long, you are not going to make a lot of money. My original plan with doing sort of jewellery and stuff like that was, okay, well, I can get loads of stuff like silver wire, and I can make stuff out of that. I can also get loads of mounts and different sort of semi-precious stones, you know, through wholesalers, put them together, blah, 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 sell them. There you go. Trouble with this is, you're not going to make much, if any, money. Yeah, it's cheap to set up, and you can probably get yourself up and running for about somewhere between 20 and 50 quid, but that's not what's selling. Everybody's doing that. And their dog. And the dog's dog. And the dog's rabbit. Hopefully I'm making it very clear here that if it's really simple, it ain't going to sell. Right? Because everybody else is already doing it. Now, that means you go for the higher market, which is what I'm looking at now. And that is using the skills I already have with sculpting to have rings 3D printed and cast, custom made. This can be a bit expensive when you're dealing with things like silver, especially if it's gold or platinum. Titanium's not too bad, based on current prices, stuff like that, you know. I have made stuff out of silver and bronze clay before. If you've not heard of that, it's basically like a clay, and then you sit with a bleeding blowtorch for ages once you've made the thing, and it turns into metal. It turns into bronze or silver, right? So yeah, there's that sort of stuff. But a lot of my ideas are to make male and female rings, but more intricate things. There's plenty of models I have existing that I could repurpose and either make into a ring or add to a mount on a ring, right? And have printed out. That's the current thing. There's only one tiny problem with that. I currently don't have any sculpting programs at all on my PC and haven't for some time. That's because one of my drives went a bit wobbly earlier on in the year. And the SSD I've currently got, although those drives are still visible, right, it can't read any of the programs on it. It knows Windows is there, it just can't boot from it. So a mate of mine, Paul, lent me one of his spare SSDs, and I've been using that. The fortunate is it's quite small, so I had to pick and choose what went on. So 3D Max went on because it was all given. Photoshop went on, you know, the software I use for these videos went on. Then I started running out of space. So I'm going to have to get another SSD, at least 1 terabyte, and I can start installing things, get mudboxing, get ZBrushing, blah, 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 you know. I did put Nomad Sculpt on my phone and was messing around while I was at the bar the other night, you know, sitting with my finger. It's not brilliant. There's no pressure sensitivity there for, at least not on a bloody Android phone when you're using your finger. But, you know, it's something to keep my hand in. I can still sculpt, I'm a lot slower than I used to be, and I have to take a lot more breaks. Hence why I know that there's a number of blocks in the way. The same as a number of people pointed out that maybe I would make a good sort of VFX soup, something like that, you know, along those sort of lines, something higher up the food chain. Yeah, probably. Unfortunately, there's a couple of blocks in the way. The first one is, whatever I do, I have to be able to work from home. I have custody of my daughter. I can't move out of this area. I can't suddenly relocate because she has to still have contact with her mum and her brother. And that's just a given, right? Sorry, so moving is not an option. Secondly, the people that remember me when I started, that are further up the tree now, they still remember me under my pigeonhole of the sculpting guy or the mudbox guy, even though that's less than 1% of what I've done in my career. I've done so many other things, you know. I've been sort of environment art, like senior environment artist. I've been lead lighting artist. I've been 3D supervisor. I've all these different bloody roles in different areas. I've taught, so I do, I've got, my skill set is quite massive. But unfortunately, I've got this ball and chain of the, I hate to use the word, but notoriety from back in the 2010 and 2000, amongst all the people in the 3D industry of being the sculpting guy or the crazy Geordie, that does get in the way a little bit. So, can I do these jobs? Of course I bloody can. I could do it stand on my head. So I was watching a video done by a certain well-known VFX group that does videos on here, right, on YouTube, last night. And I was sitting there watching these series of shots, and I'm going, that would never have passed me. Problems there, and there. Now I realise they were on a time limit, right? That's not saying that what they did was bad. Just I can spot the problems in the shot very, very fast after this many years. So yeah, that's what I'm basically got to do going forward. There's a bank holiday coming, so not a lot of stuff will get done then. So I want to get all of the SSD in today, although I can't really afford it. I've realised that my income, such as it is going to be a bit less because there's a large block of weeks where I'm not teaching at the university because the way things work out with the way the syllabus is. So that's going to make it interesting around my birthday and into July. It's going to be brown trouser time. I did have somebody, my name cropped up on Twitter yesterday. I'm recording this on Thursday, so I'm not sure if I'm putting it up today or tomorrow. And it was about the vector displacement shader that I wrote for Mental Ray back in the day. So support vector displacement maps, because the story was, and there's no big secret. The person who was supposed to write it at Autodesk had to go on, I believe it was maternity leave. Say the maternity leave or funeral leave. So they couldn't make one because, important shit going on. And I was asked by a couple of friends of mine at Autodesk, any chance you could bail us out the shit, please? It was a bit of a favour. So I thought, well, they've done plenty of favours for me over the years. So, I made this shader. It had been sitting on my drive for a month. I thought it didn't work. And I realised one day it did. My version was very optimised. There was only a handful of lines of code to make it work. What I didn't do is, in commercial software, there's often lots of checks that have to be there. Like, is it a map plugged in the slot? Is it the right type of map? Is it the right format? Is it the right colour space? And all this stuff. Now I thought to myself, well, I know the majority of people that are using this free shader that I put out weren't morons. That they would only be plugging in a vector displacement map. So that made it super fast, right? And I think mine rendered it something like 30 seconds on the test model of mine. When Autodesk finally released one on their own, I think it was after about a year or two, theirs clocked about, was it a minute and a half, 2 minutes, because that many checks going through. Exactly the same scene, light and everything else, same version of Max. The only reason I stopped that was because it was a free thing. There was no Patreon back then. I don't think Gumroad had even serviced or something. So it wasn't like I can say, oh, you can have it, but it's going to cost you $5 or something like that. The interest, a lot of people would have bought it. If there'd been a Patreon back then, I'd be a fucking millionaire. But I didn't. And all it did is generate about 200 emails a day. Some very large companies used it. Square Enix got in touch back then. They wanted to have a peek at the code and how I was doing it because they wanted to see if it was applicable to the game engine they were working on at the time. Bear in mind, this is many years ago. So it's not breaking any NDAs. So a lot of companies use this, and although I did have a thing to donate via PayPal, it raised, I think, £3.50. So, excuse me, been smoking too much cigarettes. So that's the reason behind a lot of that. But I haven't programmed programmed in anger properly. Since about 2014, 2015 maybe. I've not, my skills are virtually dormant now. I'll have to go back in and, refresh them. It's possible, but, it's just, seems like a lot of bloody work, mate, to me. It's the last case scenario was, the last ditch effort would be doing stuff like database programming, get sharpen the skills up again, but that just means getting paid less for something that could equally as much screw up my hands even more, which doesn't seem ideal. But the bottom line is I have to make ends meet. I don't like being a charity case, but it is what it is. I think I'm just It's full of sodden fly. We're not cutting that out. But yeah, so that's a lot of the stuff that's going on at the moment. I've had a few dark moments with my head at the moment, because there's a lot of stuff going on that I don't mention in these videos because I can't, because it's to do with people other than me. But it has a direct effect on my life and my stuff. So I'm going to say that I'm going through a pretty heavy stage of my life is an underestimation of the century, but which doesn't make it easier, because there's some serious things going on to do with certain family members and their health and stuff, and that worry's taken up 90% of my processing power in my brain. I have about 10% left. That's not ideal, especially not when I need to come up with good, fresh, brilliant ideas. But it is what it is. We've all got our crosses to bear. We've all got things that in our life that's shit. All right? That's one of the things that you've got to bear in mind. No matter how bad you have it, some other poor bastard's got it worse. And I know there's plenty of people out there that got a lot worse than me. What I do have is experience. I have, a broad skill set. Some would say too broad, in multiple areas. So, and I'm good at talking. I can talk on this camera for hours if I had to. Not exactly sure how to monetize that, because unfortunately I've got a stupid fucking accent. If I had a standard English accent, no doubt I could do all sorts of things on YouTube and make loads of money, but a bit late now. Anyway, my battery's run out on the camera. That's what's been going on. I'll see you all next time. My name's Ian Robson. This has been Life After 3D, episode 12. Bye-bye.